Look up at Jupiter. It's the undisputed king of our solar system, more massive than every other planet combined. 2.5 times more, actually. It's a swirling giant of gas, so big that over 1,000 Earths could fit inside it. But here's where things get strange. If you started adding mass to Jupiter, piling on more and more material, it wouldn't grow. It would shrink. More stuff, less size. That sounds broken. It sounds like it breaks a basic rule of reality. Gravity, mass, size, these things are supposed to work together, not against each other. And this impossible little fact opens the door to an even bigger question, one wrapped in decades of myth. Is Jupiter a failed star? A star that never quite made it? Today, we're going to unravel both mysteries, the paradox of a planet that shrinks when you feed it, and the truth behind one of astronomy's most persistent legends. Let's start with what we actually know, the raw scale of the thing. Jupiter has a mean radius of about 69,911 kilometers. Earth could fit inside it more than 1,000 times over. Its mass is 318 times that of Earth. And remember, it is already 2.5 times more massive than every other planet in the solar system combined. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, all of them together. And Jupiter still outweighs the lot. But here's the first hint that something's ODD. For all that mass, Jupiter isn't especially dense. Its density is only about 1.33 grams per cubic centimeter. Earth, by comparison, is 5.51. Earth is rock and metal packed tight. Jupiter is mostly gas, loosely held together by its own gravity. Now look at what that gas actually is. By mass, Jupiter is about 73% hydrogen and 24% helium. And the Sun? About 71% hydrogen and 27% helium. Nearly identical. Two objects, one lighting up the sky, one just quietly orbiting it, built from almost exactly the same raw ingredients. So if Jupiter is made of the same stuff as a star, in roughly the same proportions, why did one of them ignite into a blazing ball of fusion, and the other just became a very large, very cold planet? This is exactly why the idea took hold in the first place. Jupiter is huge. It's made of hydrogen and helium. It even glows faintly in infrared from its own internal heat. Put those facts together, and it's easy to see why generations of stargazers started calling it a failed star, a giant that almost made it, a spark that never quite caught. And here's the twist that makes the legend feel even more believable. Failed stars actually do exist. They're real objects, sitting in that strange gap between planet and star. Astronomers call them brown dwarfs. They're massive, they're gassy, and in a lot of ways, they really do look like Jupiter's bigger, more ambitious cousins. So the question isn't as simple as it first seems. If brown dwarfs are genuine failed stars, and Jupiter shares so much in common with them, where exactly is the line? Is Jupiter close to that boundary? Is it even possible that, under slightly different circumstances, Jupiter could have crossed it? To answer that, we need to understand one of the strangest rules in all of planetary science. A rule about size itself. Because Jupiter isn't just big, it might be sitting right at the edge of how big a planet can ever be. Here's the paradox in full. Jupiter sits right around the maximum size a planet can physically reach. Not the maximum mass, the maximum size. And those are two very different things. Think about a snowball. Pack more snow onto it, and it grows. Bigger mass, bigger snowball. That's how we intuitively expect the universe to work. More material means more size. It's true for cars, for buildings, for planets like Earth. But Jupiter has already crossed into a different regime entirely. Add more mass to Jupiter, and gravity doesn't just make it bigger, it starts crushing it. The extra material pulls everything inward with more force than the existing structure can resist, compressing the whole planet down on itself. The result isn't a larger Jupiter, it's a denser, more compact one. So here's the mind-bending part. Take a hypothetical planet with 13 times Jupiter's mass, an object with far, far more material stuffed inside it. You'd expect something dramatically larger, right? Wrong. It would end up roughly the same size as Jupiter is right now. 13 times the mass, and almost no gain in size. All that extra material just gets squeezed into a smaller volume, packed in tighter by its own gravity. More stuff. Same size. It genuinely breaks our everyday logic about how objects should behave. And this isn't some minor cosmic quirk. It reveals something profound. Somewhere out there, hidden in the physics of gravity and pressure, there's an actual ceiling on how big a planet, or a planet-like object, can get. Jupiter isn't just a big planet. It might be sitting almost exactly at that ceiling. Which raises the obvious next question. If piling on mass doesn't make Jupiter bigger, what does it actually do? What happens if you keep going, mass after mass after mass? Keep piling on mass, and at a certain point, something switches on inside the core. Around 13 times the mass of Jupiter, the pressure and temperature deep inside become just enough to trigger a new kind of fusion. Not normal hydrogen fusion, the kind that powers stars like our Sun, but deuterium fusion. Deuterium is sometimes called heavy hydrogen, an isotope with an extra neutron tucked into its nucleus. It fuses at a lower temperature and pressure than regular hydrogen does. This is exactly where astronomers draw the official line. 13 Jupiter masses. Below that, you have a planet. Above it, you've crossed into an entirely new category of object, the brown dwarf. Brown dwarfs occupy this strange middle ground between gas giant and true star. Despite the name, they aren't actually brown. Depending on temperature, they glow deep red to magenta, and the coolest ones, dropping as low as 300 Kelvin, even have mineral grains forming in their atmospheres. It wasn't until 1995 that one was confirmed to exist, a discovery that finally proved these objects were real. But here's the crucial part. Even brown dwarfs can't sustain hydrogen fusion the way stars do. Their cores hit a wall called electron degeneracy pressure, a quantum effect that physically stops them from compressing any further. Deuterium burns for a while, then fades. The core stabilizes. The fusion stops. These are the true failed stars. Objects that tried to become something more, ignited briefly, and then stalled out forever, stuck in that gap between planet and star. And Jupiter, remember, is nowhere close to 13 Jupiter masses. It has a long, long way to go before it even reaches that threshold. Let's keep going. Let's say Jupiter somehow crossed the brown dwarf line and kept climbing. How far would it actually need to go to become a real, honest-to-goodness star? The answer is staggering. Jupiter would need about 80 times its current mass. Not 80% more. 80 times what it weighs right now. Only at that point would the core finally get hot enough and dense enough to sustain real hydrogen fusion, the process that powers every true star in the sky. And even then, it wouldn't be some blazing giant. It would be the smallest, dimmest type of star that exists, a red dwarf. Consider EBLM J055557AB, the smallest known star ever discovered. It sits about 600 light-years away, and its mean radius is only slightly larger than Saturn's. a genuine, fusion-powered star, barely bigger than a planet in our own solar system. So Jupiter's basically almost a star then, right? Nope, not even close. Because if Jupiter had ambitions of becoming something like our own Sun, a true main sequence star with real power behind it, the math gets even more absurd. It would need roughly 1,000 times its current mass. 1,000 Jupiters packed into one object just to match our Sun. Jupiter, for all its size, all its swirling storms and crushing gravity, isn't a smouldering ember of a star. It's not even 1% of the way there. So if Jupiter falls so absurdly short of star mass, why do we still call it a failed star? Here's where the legend actually falls apart, and the real answer is more interesting than the myth. It comes down to how these objects are born. Stars, and brown dwarfs too, form top-down. A massive cloud of interstellar gas becomes unstable, collapses under its own gravity, and spins faster and faster as it pulls in more material. The core gets squeezed, gets hotter, and if there is enough mass, fusion ignites. That's the birth of a star. Jupiter's story is completely different. It formed bottom-up, from leftover scraps. After the Sun ignited, a disk of gas and dust remained swirling around it. Tiny grains of ice and rock began colliding, sticking together through simple static electricity, slowly building larger and larger clumps. Once that growing core reached about 10 Earth masses, it became massive enough to start gravitationally pulling in surrounding gas. That's how Jupiter grew, patch by patch, collision by collision, until it had swept up everything within reach. And we actually have evidence for this. Data from NASA's Juno probe suggests Jupiter has a dense solid core, exactly what you'd expect from this gradual, bottom-up accretion process, not from a direct gas cloud collapse like a star. So Jupiter shares the Sun's composition, not because it burned out or fell short. It shares that composition because it was built from the very same cloud of gas that formed the Sun itself. You can't fail at something you never attempted. Jupiter never tried to become a star. It was never in the race at all. So Jupiter isn't a broken star, and it isn't an almost star either. It's something stranger and, honestly, more remarkable. A planet sitting right at the edge of what a planet can even be, caught in that bizarre place where adding mass no longer makes things bigger, only denser. And it's a planet that was never in the running to begin with, born from leftover scraps, not a collapsing cloud of ambition. Two mysteries, one answer. The paradox of shrinking under its own mass and the myth of a star that never was, both resolved by understanding what Jupiter truly is. If stuff like this fascinates you as much as it fascinates us, consider subscribing. And tell us in the comments, what cosmic mystery should we unravel next?